Well, hello everyone, and welcome to another edition of Late Night Larry, where I talk about random NASCAR topics from my garage, obviously late at night. So today I really have kind of, in a way, similar topics, but two different topics that I really wanted to talk about here today. One, and that's the one I'm going to start off with, is a follow up to something I had previously talked about, whether it's on Hit the Pace Car, my podcast with Corey and Tyler over on the Pace Car Boys YouTube channel, or right here on Trackside Larry on this YouTube channel. I made a video about it, and that, of course, is about Daniel Dye. Daniel Dye has, in my opinion, been let go from college racing, and the release said that he resigned. And I think that's just college racing and everybody over there just kind of doing him a solid. They're like, hey, how do you want us to word this? Because he got fired. Let's be honest with that part first. He got fired. He got let go from his contract. Whatever wording you want to come up with, he's no longer at college racing a Ram truck. The driver of that number 10 truck for the remainder of the year to go full time will actually be Corey LaJoie, which I find quite interesting, especially after LaJoie's comments about truck racing a couple years ago and just the way the overall fan base looks at him. I like LaJoie. I would say I'm a fan of LaJoie, and I think he'll probably do a pretty good job in that truck. LaJoie was scheduled to drive the 25 truck this weekend for Rockingham. That will now be Ty Dillon driving the number 25 truck at the Rockingham on Friday. But the main subject here is Daniel Dye. And I said it in my previous video, if you don't remember. I don't agree with at all what Daniel Dye said. I can't support it, this and that. It was wrong. It was bad. It was completely idiotic and stupid what he did on that live stream. But this is probably a career ender. And some of you may say, well, Daniel Dye isn't that great of a driver either anyways. And I would agree. I'm not sitting here saying Daniel Dye is some great driver. I'd say he's an average Truck Series, O'Reilly Series driver at best. He keeps the cars clean. But from what I've seen, he's never been troublesome. He always seems to be somewhat stand up. Like I said, I don't know the guy personally or anything, but he seems like, for the most part, as a stand up guy. And this is a career ender. And like I said, what he did was completely idiotic and stupid, and it was dumb. It was really dumb what he did, and I don't agree with what he did on that live stream. I don't need to go through all that again. I've already gone through that a couple of times on what he did and what he said. But I don't know if it's deserving of a career ender, because he's, first of all, he's never raced in A-tier equipment. He's at best gotten into B-tier equipment, and this opportunity with Ram's obviously not that great yet, but he's on the cutting room floor. You know, he's getting in before the blueprint is really built out, and potentially he could climb with Ram if he has success. Obviously, he hasn't done that great this season, but to be fair, no one really at Ram has done that great this season. Justin Haley and Butterbean are near the cut line. Minnie Tyrell has obviously struggled. Anybody that they've put in that 25 has looked okay. So it hasn't been a big success so far, but I wasn't expecting big things from Ram this year. It's their first year in the Truck Series. But to have Daniel Dye potential, because I think this is a career ender. We're never going to see him in an A-tier car or a B-tier car. He's going to be, if he's going to be racing in O'Reilly or in the Truck Series ever again, which I have my doubts that we'll ever see him again from this point forward, it's going to be with a really bad race team. It's going to be with a really underfunded race team, which is unfortunate, because I think Daniel Dye takes good care of his race cars. He doesn't, if he gets caught up in a wreck, it's usually not of his own doing. He's actually really good at wreck avoidance, I've noticed over the years. He's good at staying out of the incidents, and he doesn't seem too troublesome. So the fact that this has happened, that this is going to be, in my opinion, it's a career ender. I don't see him coming back from this. I can maybe see him getting into a somewhat competitive car in ARCA, maybe like the Cars Tour. I don't know if he really dabbles into that stuff too much, or maybe into other forms of racing. Who knows? Maybe he gets into the dirt racing world. Maybe he goes over into IndyCar, NXT or something. I don't know. But his career racing in the 3 national series, being the Cup Series, O'Reilly Series, and Craftsman Truck Series, is done. He's never going to win a race. He's never going to be a competitive car ever again. And like I said, what he did was stupid and dumb, naive. There's probably a million other words that you can come up with it. It was really dumb. And he shot himself in the foot. You can say he did it to himself, which he did. He did do it to himself. He should know how the social media age is and how this modern world is. He should have known what he was doing in that moment. He was just being freaking stupid. I don't know how many times I got to say that. Just being freaking stupid. And now his career is probably over. But let me know your thoughts. How do you feel about Daniel Dye? Do you think he's deserving of a career ender? I'm not against him 100% getting punishment. I kind of expected it, honestly. If it were me in that scenario, I probably wouldn't have punished him like as severely as colleagues were seeming like they were going to do. But to release him from his contract, yeah, I don't know if he's deserving of his NASCAR career coming to an end, in my opinion. But let me know your thoughts in the comments. And the other thing I really want to talk about, and I think this I might talk about even a little bit more than Daniel Dye, is Nick Sanchez. A lot of you that have followed me for a while, I'm quite fond of Nick Sanchez. I wouldn't say I'm like a huge fan of him, but I think he's a very talented race car driver who gets the best out of his equipment. He raced really well for Big Machine Racing last year. He had a lot of success in that 48 car. At some points in the season, it seemed like he could potentially even be a threat to go to the championship 4. He won the race at Hot Atlanta. He was really good. He did really well last year in the 48. And then because Nick Sanchez doesn't bring any money to the table, he doesn't bring any sponsorship to the table. That's why we've seen him be sponsored by just Ford in some races this season. That's why he ended up getting let go from Big Machine Racing, because Patrick Starpoli had the money, had the sponsorship. So that's why they decided to bring Patrick Starpoli in. It was a business decision, not a skillful decision. It was a money decision, not a talent decision. And now Nick Sanchez is once again in that situation, because it looked like he was going to race this weekend at Rockingham for AM Racing in the 25, and he hasn't done great in that car. But to be fair, that car has zero support. Ford are completely inactive in the O'Reilly Series at this point. The only full-time car is that 25 car for AM Racing, or so we thought, as the entry list was put out earlier in the week and the 25 car was on it. But then AM Racing decided to rescind their entry, and AM Racing is no longer participating at Rockingham this weekend for Easter weekend on Saturday. And I really feel for Nick Sanchez. Nick Sanchez is a very talented race car driver, and now I'm not saying he's without a ride, because he might be back in the next race for the O'Reilly Series. He could be back. It could just be one race that he misses, and he races the remainder of the season for AM Racing, for all I know. But this isn't a good sign. It isn't a good sign at all. And Nick Sanchez could potentially be without a ride. He could be without a ride. And it's part of a bigger problem with NASCAR at the moment. Because, of course, you have Corey Heim Time. He's one of the most talented drivers young talented drivers, I should say, in the sport right now. And he doesn't have a full-time ride this year. He's waiting on 2311. Hopefully he'll be able to race for 2311 Racing next season. But he doesn't have a full-time ride this season. Another driver that's not even racing and hasn't raced in about a year and a half that just popped into my mind is Brett Moffitt. Brett Moffitt didn't really bring any sponsorship or money to the table, but he's a Truck Series champion. He's not out there. Someone like Sheldon Creed, who is racing, and I think at this point he's finally getting more and more sponsorship help. But for a couple of years there, pretty much every race that he was racing, he was paying for himself. And that's not how NASCAR used to be. Look at what Junior's done, and this is why I like Junior so much. Look what Junior has done with Bubba Pollard at Richmond and Lee Pulliam this past weekend at Martinsville. These drivers don't have much money, if any, to their name to go racing in one of the premier NASCAR series. Doesn't really have any sponsorship or anything like that. And Junior gave them both a fantastic opportunity, and they did the most they could with it. And if Junior didn't give them that opportunity, they'd probably never get seen in NASCAR. Josh Berry has a whole career because of what Dale Earnhardt Jr. did. And it's just a lot different right now than what NASCAR used to be. And I've harped on this conversation many times. I think a lot of people have harped on this conversation many times as well. That in old NASCAR, if you had the talent, you had the skill, this and that, the team, once you get to a certain level, obviously, the lower levels, it's different. But once you get to like a certain level of racing, the teams will find you the money. The teams will supply you the sponsorship. They'll pretty much do all of that for you. They're going to set you up. And then nowadays, if you don't personally bring the money, bring the sponsorship to the table, good luck getting a ride. Doesn't matter how talented you are, which is insane. Corey Heim just came off the best season in Truck Series history, and you're saying he doesn't have a ride? You're saying he doesn't have a full-time ride. That's crazy to me. That is insane. And Nick Sanchez obviously didn't have as successful of a season as Corey Heim did, but Nick Sanchez is a fantastic young driver with boatloads of potential. And the fact that he is not, first of all, he's not in a quality car. AM Racing, I think, AM Racing wasn't that great to begin with, but I think this year they've even taken another step down because there's no Fords racing in the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. Another prediction for me, though, real quick, just before I forget, I don't think Ford is going to be participating in the O'Reilly Series at all next year, unless Penske or Roush decide to dip their toes back into the O'Reilly Auto Parts Series. But as I was saying, Nick Sanchez, he's racing for a team that isn't all that great. He's racing for a team that isn't all that great on a last minute deal. I would like to add as well, him signing with AM Racing was not even a month before the season started is when he signed with AM Racing, and that's partially because Big Machine let him go at such a inopportune time. Let him go at one of the worst times. Everybody already has their deals done. What the hell is Nick Sanchez supposed to do? And it really puts a bad taste in my mouth when it comes to Big Machine Racing, because Big Machine Racing have put him in this scenario. And I know Big Machine, they're doing business, they're trying to make profit, they're trying to make money. I get it. They look at it more as a business than racing, in my opinion. They look at it more like a business. And I get that. I understand. I don't agree with it, but I get it. But Big Machine have put him in this position where he had to sign with a lower funded team, a not as great race team, and now he's missing a race. He's missing Rockingham. And like I said before, this might be the only race he misses. He could race the rest of the season and all of a sudden have a lot of success throughout the year. Who knows? Maybe he's able to have a more successful rest of the year, but it's just disappointing, man. This is just really, really disappointing for me to see with Nick Sanchez. I'm hoping he's able to get some great opportunity for 2027. At this point, 2026 is dead and gone for him. He's not going to win a championship. I don't think he's going to win any races over at AM Racing unless it's a super speedway or something like that. Other than that, he's just not going to be competitive. He's just not going to be competitive. And he went from being one of the best younger prospects into just being another driver out there, just another driver. And it just sucks. I feel bad for Nick Sanchez. I feel bad for Corey Heim. I feel bad for Brett Moffitt. I feel bad for a lot of these drivers that have had a lot of success and have shown pure raw talent and skill, but because their pockets aren't laced with money and they don't have all these big brand sponsorships behind them, they can't frickin' race. They can't race. And that's always been my biggest problem with motorsports, with racing, is the best racer, the best car racer, motorsports driver, whatever term you want to use in the world, is probably not racing professionally. They're probably on iRacing. That's just the reality of that's just the reality of motorsports, and it really sucks. It really sucks. Like I said, I like what Junior's doing over there with Pollard and Pulliam, and I'm assuming he's probably gonna give more of these guys opportunities when he feels like the time is right. But to just to have this happen, it sucks. Hopefully, people begin to follow Dale Earnhardt Jr.'s lead, and because look at Jerky Boys. I think I'm going to use this example with Lee Pulliam. I hadn't heard too much about Jerky Boys before this past weekend. I've seen Junior talk about it on social media, and I've seen the bag. That Junior does a good job of promoting Jerky Boys, but I think Jerky Boys got more promotion this past weekend with Lee Pulliam than they ever had. So if the thing is that these team owners need to convince these sponsors to take a chance on some of these local short track guys that obviously have pure raw talent. You need to convince these sponsorships to take a chance on these drivers, and if they do, it's probably going to pay off, and they're probably going to the brand's going to get bigger, the driver's going to get more popular. Everybody wins, but everybody's so narrow-minded. We need money now. We need money now to support this ride, and I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Even Denny Hamlin, for example. Denny Hamlin was talking about how he was trying to get a ride for Darlington, and he couldn't find a sponsor. Denny Hamlin couldn't find. It is ridiculous. It is ridiculous. I think I can go all day talking about this with Nick Sanchez, but let me know your thoughts in the comments. How are you feeling about Nick Sanchez missing out on Rockingham, and what's going to happen from this? Who knows? Let me know your thoughts in the comments. But that'll do it for today's edition of Late Night Larry. A little bit longer than what I would usually do for these, but I had two topics today, and I really wanted to go in depth with my thoughts on Nick Sanchez and just the way the sport is right now. But I appreciate anybody who did listen. And yeah, tune in for any of my other videos throughout the week. Please like, comment, and subscribe. I'm Trackside Larry. Peace.